listening to Real Guy Radio.
How many pro wrestling news websites do you visit to get your daily news? 3, 4, maybe 5? Do yourself a favor and make that number 1. WrestleChat.net, the only professional wrestling news site that brings you all wrestling news all day long, and is home of the critically acclaimed Still Real to Us podcast, starring former CZW, ROH, and ECW announcer Eric Gargiulo and the champ Jeff Peck. That's WrestleChat.net. WrestleChat, it's where it's at.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the October 20th, 2011, episode number 88 edition of the Still Real to Us Show, available for download at wheelhouseradio.com, WrestleChat.net, TWFnews.com, TWFnews.net, and wheelhouseradio.com, CamelClitchBlog.com, of course. I am one half of the Wrestling Podcast Tag Team Champions of the World. I am the champ, Jeff Peck, joined as always by the editor-in-chief of CamelClitchBlog.com, former ROH, CZW, and ECW announcer, the one and only Eric Gargiulo. Eric, how are we this week, my man?
Doing a lot better than Bobby Roode. How are you this week?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing a lot better than Bobby Roode as well. With that being said, this is a kind of a monumental moment in this show's history, Eric, because it's very rare that you and I will sit here and break down TNA wrestling. But for a good part of this show, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a TNA fan, you're going to love this. If you're just strictly a WWE fan, you're going to love towards the end of the show when we talk a little bit more about Vengeance. If you're a wrestling fan, like most of us are, maybe you'll get a lot out of this show because we're talking a lot about TNA wrestling. Their biggest pay-per-view of the year, Bound for Glory, just happened this past Sunday. And leading up to it, there was a lot of notes. During it, there was a lot of notes, and afterwards, there was a lot more notes to talk about. So a very huge week in the news realm when it comes to TNA wrestling, and really gives us a lot to talk about with TNA. But before I get to TNA wrestling, I just want to get this out of the way, and I'm sure you guys will hear me mention this multiple times on the show. Available right now at the Still Real to Us Show fan page on Facebook. We have a poll up. We're going to give you guys the opportunity to pick what you would like to hear on Thanksgiving Thursday, which will be on the air. There'll be a show that'll air Thanksgiving, and it's going to be one of our Thanksgiving specials. Your 4 choices right now. It's a poll up at the Still Real to Show fan page. Is 10 years later the Invasion angle? Eric and I talk about the Invasion angle. Favorite all-time Survivor Series moments, matches, and events. An interview with Luke Hawx, and currently the leader. Favorite wrestling feuds of all time. The current leader of what you guys would like to see.
One, Jeff, I like that.
The favorite feuds. I've always thought if we don't get Luke on for Thanksgiving, maybe we'll do like something right around Christmas. We'll call it Hawksmas or something.
There you go.
And give people there. But a lot to talk about TNA wrestling. I'm looking at my notes here, Eric. We could do this in chronological order almost, and we'll do the stories that led up to TNA Bound for Glory because I'm sure they will blend in, and then afterwards, and something that our fans will really dig. Eric has, I guess you could call it a Still Real to Us Show exclusive. A friend of his was backstage at Bound for Glory and has some interesting tidbits that come backstage area from TNA. But to open up the story here, Eric, Hulk Hogan was on, besides this show, Eric's second favorite wrestling radio show, Busted Open, on Sirius Radio. And I saw this story posted up on WrestleChat.net, Eric. Hulk Hogan, 2-3 days before, buries Bobby Roode, who is in the main event for the TNA World Championship going up against Kurt Angle, buries Bobby Roode. It also leads to a TNA, I guess you could call him a TNA original, AJ Styles, getting into the mix a little bit, defending and responding to his comments. Eric, I'm going to look for the quotes here, but from Hulk Hogan exactly. But your thoughts as days before Bound for Glory, Hulk Hogan is promoting Bound for Glory and burying the guy in the main event.
Well, Jeff, you actually left something out there about the whole AJ Styles tie-in. I don't know if it was on Busted Open, but Hogan also took a shot at AJ Styles.
Oh, did he really? Okay.
Yeah. He said something about the fact that when he came in to TNA, they tried to give AJ Styles a makeover, which, if you remember, was when they turned him heel and had him be a Nature Boy with Ric Flair.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and Hogan basically said that it bombed, and he said that he said something like AJ wasn't into it, and he said, "Well, what do I know? It's not like I know anything about this business." Like took a little dig at AJ Styles, and AJ retorted back about something about the company not having his back brother. It's a funny thing when you stick a microphone in front of Hulk Hogan, because you never know what you're gonna get. You're either gonna get two tails, two opposite ends of the spectrum. You're either gonna get a lot of bullshit, or you're gonna get a guy that's honest to a fault. And quite honestly, he can't win when he's honest to a fault. He says something stupid. When he gives you a lot of bullshit, he says something even more stupid. And it's amazing to me because, as Hulk Hogan said it himself, it's not like he's just got into this business. He's a smart guy. He gets it. He understands it. So, I'm not going to chalk it up to him being naive for saying these things. But it's amazing, Jeff. I mean, you go back. You can even go back, to other interviews, because I heard him on the Colin Cowherd show. I heard him on I heard him on the Howard Stern show.
I'm sorry, you listen to Colin Cowherd?
You know what? I don't, and I can't stand it. But somebody tweeted me and said that he was coming on in 5 minutes, so I turned it on specifically to hear him. And I heard him on some other show, and in some of these interviews, when they would ask him about the card, he would say, "Yeah, Kurt Angle is wrestling some guy." He wouldn't even say Bobby Roode's name. There have been other interviews that he did where he didn't even mention TNA wrestling. I mean, you go back to him on American Idol, and how huge is that? The guys on American Idol, WWE guys aren't getting on American Idol, and he doesn't even mention TNA. There's just something going on here with Hogan and TNA, and you get the impression that he is a company guy because nobody else is going to pay his absorbent tab that he charges from TNA, but at the same time, he doesn't promote TNA the way he did WCW, the way he did WWE, hell, the way that he's done for micro championship wrestling at times. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's consciously something that he's doing. I don't know if it's subconsciously something that he's forgetting to do, but there's something there. But, this brings us back to your whole story here about Hogan bagging on Bobby Roode days before the show. And it's just amazing to me because even if he did feel like that, why would he do it? I mean, it goes back to when you had Triple H come out before WrestleMania, and he points to The Undertaker and says, "Nothing else matters in this company but beating that man." And you're like, wait a minute, what about the rest of the company? And again, guy in power, guy that has a lot riding on the line, whether the company's successful or not. I just can't quite get it with him. Something I would like to talk about, but it's probably not the appropriate time to talk about it, are comments on Twitter that Hogan and Bischoff have made over the last 24 to 48 hours, which I think are rather inappropriate. But yeah, I don't know what it is, Jeff, with this guy. There's still a very likable factor about Hogan. And maybe it's just because I'm in my late 30s and grew up in the Hulkamania era, but I hear Hogan on these shows and there's still a likability factor about him. But then when when he says stuff like this, it's just like, man, you want to root for the guy, but he just doesn't get it.